Welcome back, YouTube family and friends. I'm Old School Mechanic James. We're here today doing the rebuild of a Mercruiser 4.3 V6 engine. This is part 7. Part 6, you guys watched it when I did my push rods and my rockers and my lifters. I set everything, did all the valve lash on it. Also, the last part of my video was with the fuel pump. I just want to make sure you guys are aware of everything with the fuel pump. And I'll tell you a little story behind this. In a prior video, part 5 or 4, I said the fuel pump was sold by Amazon. I got it. It was not an OEM, but it still was a good fuel pump. A little cheaper, $32. Well, it was exactly like what I had, but I explained in my video that the out fuel line to my carburetor was on the wrong side, and the inlet fuel line that goes into the fuel pump was on the wrong side. Well, that was incorrect information. After further review, yeah, it sounds like the NFL. Football season, go Bills. After further review, it turns out that I was wrong and the fuel pump was correct. I had it upside down. I'm used to putting in them fuel pumps where the bottom is here and the top is here. Well, on these fuel pumps for the marine fuel pump, they have a filter in here. And this filter filters the fuel coming out of the fuel tank into this inlet. It's got marked on it, says in. This is marked out. So the out comes up through and goes into the carburetor. So that is why I had to stop the video, correct my fuel pump. I switched it back around, pulled the screws out, turned it 180 degrees, put it in correctly. We got it all mounted up, we're good to go. So here we are, we're doing the intake manifold today. So I cleaned all this up with a razor blade, and I didn't use the steel wheel on it, just a razor blade, a lot of hard elbow grease, you know, the old physical labor stuff. Air hosed it, cleaned it up. We already did the priming. You've seen that on the last video where I primed the motor with the oil in the reservoir. And we got it all primed. So now we're going to do the intake manifold. So what I do after I clean it up is I go ahead and put my gasket sealant on it. Let's bring her on down here just a little bit closer so you all can see this. Okay. So I use the Ultra Black, again, oil resistant gasket sealant. And what I'll do is I'll cover the water jackets. There's 4 of them. And I'll cover the front and the back with a nice beam. I like to do that. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me see if I can't make this thing work. It's brand new. You can get these on Amazon if you don't want to go to Walmart. But they're actually a little bit cheaper if you shop on Amazon. I'm not an Amazon promoter, but I use it for just about everything. So we're going to run a nice bead all the way across. I'm pretty sure you can see it. If not, I'll bring in the camera. Then I'm going to come up just a little bit on the jacket where the water would go. Do a light coat. Do it on this side too. Okay, then we do the back side. A nice steady bead all the way across. And go up to the jacket. Do a nice coat around it. The other side. Okay. There we go. And that's pretty much it. Basically what I like to do, smooth it out. Now a lot of you guys, again, we talked about it earlier in my earlier videos, y'all use them plastic gloves. That's great. But somehow, some way, when I put them on my hands, at the very end of my fingertips, they get all kind of squishy and rubbery. You don't do a good seal. So with my finger that God gave me, I can go ahead and smooth it just a little bit. I want to cover the outside and the inside of the ridge. Because once I set this intake manifold on it, I don't want it leaking. I don't want it coming back out. I don't want to have to take it out. You go around your oil sensor at the back. Make sure you get a nice lubrication around the back side of that oil, because that's where sometimes you get them leaks. Again, we're going to go all the way up to the bolt hole, all the way down. Just a nice coat. It already has the intake gaskets, intake manifold gasket. That's on the intake. But I want to put a little extra protection here, making sure that this thing is sealed tight. I do not like to take this back off, especially if it's in the boat. Just about got to pull the motor once again just to get this intake manifold. In the car you can do this. In the car it's no issue. You can pull an intake off of a motor in the car with no problem. With these boats, different beast. Different beast. A lot of you guys know about that. So this intake is going to go on and it's going to seal. Okay, that's the back side. Now we'll do the front side. Again, we'll just smooth out this little bead I put on here. Just go outside, inside. Nice, thick layer. We're going to even let it harden just a little. Now, there we go. Nice coat. Looking good. And every one I've done like this, I haven't had a leak on them. That's a pretty good record, you know. I mean, sometimes in the past, when I used to do it back in the old days, I do it real quick, or I use those little rubber components that come with your packet. But nah, I don't use that no more. This is the way to go, guys. Use your own gasket, seal it, cover up them water jackets. You'll have a good seal, no leaks. All right, we're done with that. Now, I'm gonna let it set for just a few minutes. I've already prepped my intake manifold. I've already took all the intake manifold bolts. I cleaned them all up with the steel wheel. Just brush them, clean them up. Once I get them all cleaned up, we're good to go. I'm gonna set the intake manifold on here, get it lined up with the holes. Everything is here. All the lifters, all the push rods, it's all set. It's on number 1 cylinder. I got it on my harmonic balancer, so the number 1 cylinder is all the way up. Even if it wasn't, I can still show you guys later on when we do the distributor. When we get it ready to fire, I'll show you how I do that, or when I stick my distributor in it. So anyway, we're good to go. Hold on, I'll be right back. This beast is heavy. There's nothing light about this intake, especially with the thermostat on it. So we're going to set it right here. And I'm going to come down nice and slow, catch those holes, and there you go. Just line those holes up, the front and back, as close as you can get it. And we're on it. We're on it, dead on it. All right, let's get some bolts started in it. Okay, what I like to do is put a few bolts in it right away, because as we're talking, the lubrication is still a little bit moist. And we can get pretty darn close so we can start threading the bolt. So I say. Alright, might need a little help. Sometimes you take a screwdriver, just stick it down in there and find that hole, and you can get the bolt started. There we go. Alright. Yeah, once you get a couple lined up, you're on your way. Now this marine intake has a couple of components that have to go on it. And so in doing that, I have to put these they're the they're the little brackets that you actually can hoist the engine with, and I'll show you in a second once I come back. Yeah, just get a couple started. I do 4. You can do 2. You can do 1. You just want to get them holes lined up before the gasket seal starts to seek, starts to harden. Alrighty. Alright, so we got those on. Now, what I was talking about, just to make sure, we got these two eye hole brackets that are part of your intake manifold. At least on mine. Most of your marine motors has these. So these here will be mounted. There's one that goes in the front and one that goes in the back. And they can only go one way, so you got to just line it up and see which way it goes. So I'm pretty sure this one, yeah, it goes back here. And the front one goes over here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get those mounted. I'll just take this nut, the screw back out, this bolt. Just come back in. Now, I like to put a little gasket sealant on these before I screw them in. So just bear with me on this. Get my other two so I can use this up. But basically we're going to put a little sealant on the bolt. So here's the bolt. I'm going to put a little gasket sealant on there.